All right, so what's up for vote? Right now, the restaurant revitalization plan, $25 billion. This is vote is expected this week, maybe as early as Friday, or as late as Friday, I should say. So it's part of the $1.9 trillion Biden plan that he rolled out. This particular $25 billion fund was voted on the Senate to throw into the 1.9 trillion, 90 to 10. 90 to 10 in the Senate. So they realize that restaurants need money. So grants can be up to $10 million. Again, they're going to come out and clarify this once it passes. It's not passed, but it is on the horizon and up for vote as part of the $1.9 trillion plan. There's $5 billion set aside for restaurants that have sales with less than $500,000. So if you're a small restaurant, there's $5 billion that are set aside just for you, which is tremendous. There's 20 billion available to distribute in an equitable manner to eligible entities of different sizes based on annual gross receipts. So that basically they can make adjustments to where is your business. Again, this is a national thing. So where is your business? New York is more expensive to operate than Seattle. Seattle's more expensive to operate than Bellingham. So the administrator can make adjustments based on where your business is and dole out money however they see fit, based on your local market, which is the first time we've seen that on any type of bill. They're really trying to get to small businesses with this money, especially restaurants. So you have to have a good faith certification that the uncertainty of the current economic conditions make necessary the grant request to support the ongoing operations of the eligible entity. So you really have to think about this. If you've got a bunch of money in the bank, do you feel good about it's a good faith certification? Do you feel good about going after this money? Because I think the scrutiny increases the more and more you get. If you get over $2 million with your current business, the scrutiny is going to be higher on you than it will be on other businesses, smaller businesses. So you couldn't have received a loan under the Shuttered Venues Act, which is a tremendously helpful act for those that have nightclubs and places that have had to be closed. The Shuttered Venue Act is just absolutely a tremendous act, and that's something that you should look into if you've got a shuttered venue, such as a nightclub or something along that line. Don't take a PPP. Don't use ERC. Study this first, and make sure that you. I think you're probably okay on the ERC side, but the PPP, don't take a PPP. Go for the Shuttered Venue Act. It's a tremendous, tremendous act to help those people that have been shuttered to come back alive. So the initial 21 days, priority is going to go to women-owned. I can hear the women out there raising their arms, being glad about this one. Veterans, socially or economically disadvantaged small businesses. So these are really the first 21 days. The way this will probably go down is they'll announce it, they'll launch it, and then for 3 weeks, everybody sits on the sideline as the women-owned and the veterans and the socially or economically disadvantaged small businesses come forward and grab their share. So they're going to get that money to the people that need it the most at the beginning, and then they'll open it up to everybody else. Then it's going to be a horse race. So if you recall, how much money has gone to restaurants currently out of the current round of PPP, initial slides, 25 billion. So we've collectively come together for 25 billion already. So we expect that this money is going to go pretty fast, because last time we got 43 billion. And this will again be for smaller businesses. So the maximum $10 million or $5 million per location, and the affiliation rules apply. So the great big guys, people that have more than 20 locations, whether they have the same name or multiple names, they don't qualify for this $25 billion. This is for smaller independent operators that make up the vast majority of the employees in the United States. So the per location and the affiliation rules apply in this case, limited to 10 million. You can't be publicly traded, so no publicly traded companies can participate in this one. The grant is pandemic related. So here's the kicker. This is 2020 revenue minus 2019. At least at this point, that's how it reads. 2020 revenue minus 2019. So if your sales are down $3 million, that's potentially could be as much as your grant. So there's a lot of money here, and it's going to go very quickly. So we're going to want to make sure that we stay in touch around this. We may call, if it gets voted through, we may call another session if there's some clarity around the rules, just to be ahead of the curve. But I expect that it gets voted in, and then we have a little bit of time for them to set the rules, and then we'll do another session just to make sure everybody's ready to go, because it'll be a bull rush. So first time we've seen things like overestimates must be returned. So if you miscalculated, for example, your 2020 revenue and you overreported what your difference was between 2020 and 2019, you got to send that back. So what can you use it for? Payroll, mortgage interest, rent, utilities. Sound familiar? Just very same things. Maintenance. Now, this is what I was really excited about, including construction to accommodate outdoor seating. Remember, there's all sorts of money that's coming towards you. You've got ERC, you've got PPP. You want to make sure that you don't double dip on those sides. I was very excited to read, including construction to accommodate outdoor seating, walls, floors, deck surfaces, furniture, fixtures, equipment. Now they'll come out with maybe a little more clarity around this, but this is really positive to be able to fix things up as they should be, especially for safety reasons. But to be able to build some stuff outside, to be able to open your facility up if there's a wall that you wanted to take out, provided that this isn't going to go away anytime soon, you may want to make some alterations to your facility, and you can use this money to do that and not double dip. So supplies, all of the bills now we're providing for PPE and cleaning materials. Specifically spelled out in this, food and beverage expenses. They call it perishable goods. In some of the other in the PPP2, they call it perishable goods. But this is the first time that we've seen it spelled out explicitly, food and beverage expenses that are within the scope of normal business practice. So again, you're not going to buy Louis for your Subway. So this has got to be part of your normal business practice. So they want you to kind of maintain the continuity of the business that you had with some tweaks, outdoor dining, all of that kind of thing. Covered supplier expenses, operational expenses, paid sick leave, and any other expense the administrator determines essential to maintaining the eligible entity. That's exciting. They can just add more stuff on there. So that's great. That's great news. So if you can't use the money, again, this is the first time we've seen any of this kind of thing that's explicitly spelled out, return the unused funds on or before the last day of the covered period. The covered period, get this, goes from February 15th, 2020 to 12/31, 2021. And the administrator can extend this for up to 2 years. So think about filling in all of those gaps that you didn't have money and you didn't have any funding for. This can go in and fill out all of that, at least at this point, the way it's spelled out. Again, they still got to come out with the final rules. It's going to be voted in final rules. But this can fill out all of those gaps where you lost money. So very, very exciting.
All right, we do have a couple of questions from the audience. Yes, this will be the slide deck will be available up on our website at coronavirus.wowhospitality.org. And then we have a couple of the same question coming in a couple of times. If your business is 50% woman owned, would that count?
I believe so. I'm not sure what the final rules on that, but I would believe it if it's majority owned. 50% is cutting it close. Again, a good question for your attorney. The attorneys know this better than we do, whether you would qualify for that.
Last question we have right now is, what if we didn't open until October 2019?
There are special rules for this and how you calculate it, but it is completely available. So there's just different ways that you calculate. I don't have those calculations in front of me, but if you open at the end of 2019, this will be available to you. It's just a different way of calculating the revenue spread between 2020 and 2019. And I can dig that up. It's just not final yet, but I can dig up what that calculation is. It's funny because I looked at it last night, thought, well, nobody's going to ask that question. So my apologies for that. But yes, you are qualified.
All right. And once again, the website where the slide deck will be
Hold
available.
on,
Oh,
Lisa, one second. So
yeah.
just in thinking about it, it's actually the average revenue for 2019. So if you're open for 1 month, you'd multiply it times 12. So it's the average revenue for 2019. Whether you're 5 months in, you'd take 5 divided by 5 times 12, and then you'd compare that to 2020. So it's the average revenue for 2019. If you're open 1 month, or if you're open 5 months, 2 months in this case, 2/12 times 12.
We got a couple more questions. First of all, the slide deck will be available on coronavirus.hospitality.org. And then our next question is, what is meant by gross revenue for the SBA?
Yeah, so that's going to be sales, less discounts. I wouldn't go past the discount line. I would put kind of net sales in there, what we consider, which would be sales less returns and allowances in retail language, but versus comps and promos in our language. So net sales is what I would use there.
Okay.
What you're filing on your B&O return is the safe way to go.
Can you describe in more detail about how this grant will be forgiven? If you have received PPP2 funds already, can you apply for this new grant? And what exactly do you mean by, do you need these funds?
Yeah, it is a grant. So there is no forgiveness on this. And so that's why I underscored the word grant. This is just like the Work in Washington grant. So they have the right to come out and audit it, but it's a grant. There's no application for forgiveness. You get the money, it's yours. Very much like you remember in some cases, people got the $10,000 EIDL grant. That was your money. Just make sure you use it correctly because they can't audit it. Now, the odds of an audit are not super high because there's so many of these. You saw there's already 2 million loans for PPP just in this round alone, and 7 million last time. This is an organization with the SBA, for example, that is used to doing 40 to 50,000 loans per year. Now they've done 10 million with the EIDL and the PPP. But this is a grant. This is a grant. This is not a loan. It's a grant. Different program. PPP is a loan. ERC is a credit. Revitalization Fund is a grant. But they do want you to return. Again, they want you to, if you don't use it, you've got to send it back. You've got to send the money back.
One more question right now. If 2020 is greater than 2019, are we excluded from this?
From this?
I'm assuming it was the person who had the business that opened in 2019.
Yeah. But this is the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, and if I'm thinking it's the same, they had extra restaurant this year. I actually don't know. I can get the answer to that, but it is a difference in sales. You may be able to take your location that was opened in 2019 and get the annual revenue, but again, that's going to be a walk on the tightrope. So you know where I'm going. So you had one location, you opened your second one, you open it at the end of the year, you take that month, you divide times it by 12, and then you compare your 2020 revenue to that for that particular location. That I don't know. That is not clear, but I expect that would be cleared up in the interim final rule that comes out around this. But I would prepare as though I were going to get it. If there's no way to get it, and you'd probably need a special lender to help understand this, but the idea isn't that they penalize people that are growing.
Is this grant considered taxable income?
Not at this point. As one of my clients said, nah, next thing you're going to be talking about Santa Claus.
And the question coming in is, we're getting pushback from our CPA about using perishable goods as part of the forgiveness process for PPP2 funds. Where can I get documentation for this detail?
That again is going to be on the interim final rule. So you're going to want to look at the PPP2 guidance that came out included that, and it made it retroactive. And if there's questions by your CPA, I would hang on. Again, there's no rush to file for forgiveness. There's no rush, other than you want to kind of get your taxes done, but there's no rush because the ERC could potentially throw a wrench in everything. So we are holding off on filing forgiveness for anybody that didn't that unless you didn't qualify, then file for forgiveness.
Rick, I've got a question. One of the items that was a qualifier for this was economically or socially disadvantaged businesses. What is the definition of that? Is that based on zip code? Is that based on ethnicity?
I think of these small areas, like in our area, for example, we have like the Rainier Valley Fund. So areas of the city that might be disadvantaged, that have these special funds to kind of prop it up, those would be the areas that they're really looking at. And again, that's that first carve out of money that they have there, the $5 billion. That's going after women owned and socially economically disadvantaged. So those are going to be the kind of the, for lack of a better term, the areas that don't have as many services as you would normally get in a different area.
Great. And we're at 45 minutes roughly. So let's give everybody a few more minutes to ask any final questions. And then Rick, I think we could probably cover the Restaurant Act items for the next webinar. But
perfect.
This was a very meaty topic. There was a lot of great questions. And Lisa, let us know if there's any more that popped through. So closing it out, Rick, what are some final thoughts that you have?
Well, I'm really encouraged by all the money that is pointed this direction for restaurants. I love the state of Washington coming forward with the 240 billion of CARES money, or million. Be nice if it was billion, but 240 million of CARES money. That kind of helps fill in some of the gaps and the cracks. I think there's going to be a lot of money poured towards the restaurant industry this year. The biggest thing is going to be keeping things straight and documenting very, very well, because it's going to be bingo hopper audit, and you don't want to be the one that gets the ball pulled out of the bingo hopper. So keep your numbers straight. Keep everything really well documented. I know it's a very big deal to have an audit ready package. That's why you want to work with professionals, but you're going to want to have an audit ready package for anybody to come in and look at any one of these things. So keep your numbers tight, keep things documented. Make sure that you don't cross over, but there's plenty of money for us to get back up on our feet as an industry this year. Looking much more positive for 21. This year is really about rebounding, and you see the word revitalization. That's really what the government is looking to do. There's a lot of champions of restaurants in Congress, much more than we think. So whether we get everything we want this year, like the Restaurant Act of 2020, that's now the Restaurant Act of 2021. These programs are really essential to come out and bridge the gap. And I think 21 is going to be a great year of everybody getting back up on their feet.
We do have one last question. If you have already received the second round of PPP, is there any need to apply to ERC?
Well, you're not going to apply to ERC. You're going to use the ERC. Just make sure you don't use it for the same expenses, but you'll want to use both the ERC and the PPP. Now, whether the IRS comes out and says you can't use it during the covered period, we don't think that that's accurate, that's going to happen, but it may. There's a little bit of risk there, but I doubt that it's going to be with the 60-40 split. I just can't see them coming out and saying you can't use ERC and PPP together during the same period of time. There's a short paragraph that's been published that says you can do that. So you will want to take advantage of the ERC, and you want to make sure that you do it right. This is not an area, when you're talking about payroll taxes, that you want to make a mistake. So make sure you work with professionals to do this. It can be a little trickier than you think.
All right. Thank you so much, Rick.
Absolutely.
And we look forward to your conversation next month. Everybody have your questions ready for then.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.